If you are retired, congratulations. And if you're thinking about moving or helping your older parents with this decision, it's usually because something with your current setup is not a good fit anymore. Maybe the house feels too big, and maybe the distance from the family, the sunshine and the grandkids, or the good life feels farther than it used to as it gets harder to travel. Or you're just not seeing them as much as you'd like, right? So once we start to think about these concerns and goals, then the big fear shows up, which is, can I even afford to move now that I'm retired? Or what if selling the house creates a huge tax bill? Or how will I say goodbye to all of my important stuff, like my kids' baby clothes and toys from when they were young, and just like all your family keepsakes, right? If that's what you're going through, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, and I am here to help you go deeper and think about this from a practical perspective, especially when it comes to the real estate side of things. My name is Emily Cressey. I've lived here in the Seattle area. My website is homeproassociates.com, and I'm a realtor who helps seniors and adult children across the greater Seattle area make thoughtful housing decisions after life changes. Let's talk about why so many seniors want to move, but they feel stuck. And, honestly, most seniors don't want more house. They want more life. They're no longer worried about being close to work, and instead now they want to be closer to their kids or their family, their grandkids. They want to be close to doctors, grocery stores, and in walkable neighborhoods. And in fact, many seniors who are surveyed after moving to the suburbs don't like living in the suburbs, and they feel isolated. They can't walk anywhere. It's too dark to drive around at night. Their neighbors are gone out at work during the day, so there's no community. They just feel alone, and you feel disconnected and you're not in the mix. The antidote to that is sometimes a 55 plus community where everyone's home and in the same stage of life, whatever the good life looks like to you at this point. The good news is that if you've lived here in the Puget Sound for a few years, you may be sitting on a gold mine, right? In the high cost of living areas like Seattle, Bellevue, Kirkland, Everett, the house that you bought decades ago is now going to be worth far more than you probably ever expected when you bought it. And this can be a huge asset that you can use to live the life that you've always wanted to. But if you're asking yourself, should we sell and try something new, or should we stay in the same home we've always been in where it's safe? Here's a kind of a framework to think about this type of a question. Your freedom to pursue other options may depend on your financial situation and on your health and how much family support you have. So people contemplating this question ask things like, what if we sell and we regret it? What if home prices keep going up? What if we need the house again later? These are reasonable fears. They come from wanting to protect yourself or your parent or your spouse. And the truth that kind of helps break this tie is that a house is meant to support your life, not delay it. So there are a lot of ways to hedge your bets if you feel nervous about moving forward. And for most people, trying to time the market and buy or sell at the perfect moment is not really a good idea at this stage of life. Real estate cycles take 7 years on average to change, and it's time to make the most of them. How you can help yourself is to ask better questions. Does the home you're living in now support the life you want to live right now? And if the answer is no, that doesn't mean you have to rush it, but it means it's a good time to start planning. Here's a clear and practical takeaway for you. You want to use your money to support the life you want. You've worked, you probably saved, and now you're switching into spending mode, and that can feel uncomfortable and it can make you feel insecure. But if the home you have no longer fits your vision for the future, start planning the move while you still have choices, and not when a personal or health crisis kind of makes the decision for you and forces it upon you. So let's talk about the financial side of this. Can a retired senior actually buy a home when they don't have a job? How are you going to get a mortgage? So traditional mortgages don't require employment, but they do require a predictable income. So that could be your Social Security income, your pension income, required investment withdrawals, assets alone don't always qualify you. And so that's why many retirees feel surprised and, dare I say, frustrated when a lender says no, even though they're clearly fine and they clearly have plenty of money. So this is where alternative financing strategies come into the conversation, because the typical mortgage system is not built for retirees. They want you to pay off your first house, over 30 years until you die. Once it's free and clear, you just stay there once you're on a fixed income. There are a lot of financing options available for you, including a reverse mortgage, which used to be kind of shady. I feel like it's more legit now. It's actually backed by government and FHA programs. And it's kind of like a HELOC, but it's guaranteed and it's locked in at a fixed interest rate. And you can actually use this to get purchase money for your next home and continue to access the income. So let's say you had $1 million home free and clear in Seattle. You could sell that home. You could buy a $500,000 home somewhere else. You could take, half of your money off the table as profit, after taxes. You could take that for yourself, and then you could buy $500,000 home. You could put a mortgage on it if it were a reverse mortgage, and you could either own it free and clear at the beginning and then pull income out of it as you needed, like money for travel or medical bills or something like that. You could have a regular, $2,000 a month coming out of it as a supplementary income. So there are a lot of ways to, if you're a millionaire, you have $1 million in home equity, there are a lot of ways to move without necessarily tying up all of that cash in an inaccessible way in your next home. So something to think about, and I can put you in touch with a specialist if that's something that you'd like more information on. And again, if this feels overwhelming or you're not sure what to do, go ahead and book a call with me. I'm not a financial planner, but I would be happy to talk about these, share my experiences, and maybe give you a few good ideas and connect you with a few people that you can talk to if you do need more information or clarity about lending options, taxes, financial planning. Now, before we go further, I want to bring up capital gains tax. So this is one of the questions that everyone is afraid to ask, but it's really important if you have lived in your home for a long time. A lot of times people are hesitant to move or to sell their home because they're afraid they're going to get crushed on taxes. And as a homeowner in Seattle, you probably have a high net worth because your home is very valuable, and these taxes can be an unwelcome burden that you need to plan for. So I want to walk through a realistic example. So let's imagine that you bought a home in this area back in the 1970s or 80s for $50,000. And now you're selling it today for $1 million. You're a married couple. Both spouses are still alive, and it's your primary residence. You can take the first $500,000 in profit tax-free, and the rest is taxed for capital gains, federal capital gains tax, okay? Long-term capital gains if you've owned it for more than a year. That's going to be 15%. So you might think you're going to be taxed on $450,000, which is your profit after your $500,000 exemption. But before we go there, I want to tell you about some other costs of sale that you're going to incur regardless of when you sell the home. So first, closing costs associated with the sale. You're going to have real estate commissions, local excise tax, which is about 1%. You're going to have escrow, title, insurance, all of these fees, right? And I tell people to estimate the cost of their sale to be about 8% of the value of the home. Hopefully it'll be a little bit less than that, but that's a safe number to use. So if your home is worth $1 million, that cost of sale could be $80,000. So your gain is going to be $870,000. The first $500,000 of that is going to be tax-free because you have that exclusion for your primary residence. So you take your $870,000 profit and you subtract the $500,000 exclusion. So that leaves you with $370,000 that you're going to be taxed on at your long-term capital gains tax rate. For most retirees, that's usually about a 15% federal income tax. There could be a state tax, but here in Washington, our real estate is exempt from our capital gains tax. Your capital gains tax that's due on the sale would be about $55,000. So it's something but I don't think it's so significant that you want to postpone the next 5 to 10 years of your life. And, obviously this isn't tax advice, but it's going to give you a rough idea of what to expect. And I mentioned reverse mortgages as well. I want to talk about what that actually is and is not. And I want to slow it down because reverse mortgages are widely misunderstood. A reverse mortgage is available to homeowners that are 62 years or older. The home is still owned by whoever the resident is, and it does not require that you make monthly mortgage payments. It gives you access to your home equity, and it's repaid when the home is sold or when the homeowner passes. There are two primary uses. Number one is that it allows you to stay in your current home, and then the second one is to allow you to buy a new home, which is called a reverse mortgage for purchase. So let's say your parents sell their $1 million Seattle home and they want to buy an $800,000 home closer to family. So instead of paying all cash, paying that whole $800,000 into the new house, they could put down 50% or 60%, and they could use a reverse mortgage for the rest of the purchase. So let's say they put down $400,000 and they borrow $400,000 on a reverse mortgage. Now they own the home, they have no monthly mortgage payment, and they can keep more cash available to the tune of $400,000 for life, healthcare, travel, or support for their monthly needs. And the loan balance will grow over time. So you borrowed $400,000, that is accruing interest, but that's better in some cases than not having the money to buy your groceries or go on that trip that you wanted to go. It's repaid at the death or the sale of the home rather than in monthly payments. So one objection is the cost of reverse mortgages. Is this expensive? And yes, let's be honest, I think this is a very valid concern. Reverse mortgages have higher upfront closing costs than traditional loans, and mortgage insurance premiums and origination fees, that's very real. So why would you consider one? Because there are no monthly payments. That's the biggest benefit. So if you have this disparity between a millionaire on paper, but you don't want to give up your home versus no monthly income, this can be a way to offset that. It's a reverse mortgage is not good nor bad. It's a tool, and you can decide whether it's the right tool to use for your situation. So as you reach retirement age and you're trying to decide where to live, I want you to remember that it's not wrong of you to stay in your house, and it's not right of you to move. It's about aligning the money that you have and where it's located, whether that's in your house or not, with the life that you want to live now, and potentially having the option of tapping into your equity to supplement your current lifestyle or help you move to a place where you could have a lower cost of living and potentially a better lifestyle as well. So whether you're thinking this through with a spouse or you're helping your parents think it through, I feel like this is an act of love to give yourself without pressure, just the time and the space to have these conversations. And if that's something that I can facilitate for you, you're welcome to book some time on my calendar with absolutely no obligation or cost. And if you have decided to move, I'd love for you to join me on my next video, which walks you through some of the steps for getting ready to sell a home that's been in your family for decades. Look forward to seeing you on the next video. I'm Emily Cressey with HomeProAssociates.com.